Welcome to Enhanced For Statement. In this lecture, we'll be understanding what the enhanced for statement is. We'll be looking at some syntax, and then we're going to dive right into applying this statement in some different programs. So what is the enhanced for statement? So first of all, you should remember that the enhanced for statement is also known as the for each loop. And if you recall from earlier in the course, we went over what for loops were, and we looked at for loops, and the enhanced for statement is basically an upgrade of these loops that's meant specifically for arrays. And basically what this statement enables us to do is that we can access every element in an array. So oftentimes we need a, if an array contains 10 or 15 elements and we don't want to have to go one by one, we want to have a loop that can take us through each element in an array one by one. And there's no replacement or removal, so you really don't replace or remove any elements when you use this loop. And this brings up an important topic of the for loop versus the for each loop. Now both loops can be used for accessing elements in an array. The difference is that the for each loop is not used to replace, remove, or change different elements, while the for loop is. So with the for loop, I can change the values of different elements and things like that, but with the for each loop I can't do that. And then you may be wondering what the use of the for each loop is if I can't edit any of the elements. And the use of this loop is, let's say that you want to find out how many even integers there are in an integer array. So then you could use the for each loop or the enhanced for statement, and then you could access every element in the array and check to see if it is even, and if it is, you could increase a count, something like that. So that's where you can use the for each loop often to track things or get statistics about a specific array. So the syntax for it is for, and then parameter, colon, array name, and then whatever statements within the body. So for example, we could go for int number, colon, array, total plus equals number. So what we have is we have an array which is already predefined, and that's the name of the array. The name of the array is array, and we're saying that for int number, which means for every number, for every integer within this array, the total, which we've already defined, is equal to the total plus the number. So basically what we're doing is we're accessing every single element in this array, and then we're adding on the value of this every single element onto the total. So now, without further ado, this seems very abstract and understandably complex, but let's look at a sample program and then understand exactly how it works in a programming environment. So let's move to Dr. Java. Okay, so here we're taking a look at the enhanced for test Java program, and basically what we're going to be doing in this program is we're going to take an array and we're going to calculate the total value of all of the elements of this integer array added up. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we're going to start off by defining an integer array x, which has 4 elements, 1, 3, 5, and 2. So that's all the elements that this integer array has. And then we're going to declare a variable of integer type called total. Int total equals 0. Now total represents the entire value, the value of all of the elements added up, and we already know that this value should be equal to 11. Now one way to calculate the total would be to just add up each element. We could go x1, x2, x3 and add them all up. But that's not something we want to do, because sometimes we may not know how many elements there are in a specific array, and that's where the enhanced for statement or the for each loop comes in. So let's use that. For int I colon x. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're saying that for every element int I, for every element in x, what are we going to do? We're going to say that total plus equals I. So now what this is basically, let's understand what this is doing. We're using the enhanced for statement, and what we're saying is that for every element in the integer array x, for every element in the integer array x, total is equal to total plus whatever that element's value. So basically, with every element we look at, every element we access in the x integer array, we'll be adding on that element's value to the total. And by doing that, we're basically at the end of the day, after it's gone through all of the different elements in x, it should total should be equal to 11. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, within the loop itself, I'm going to system.out.println total. And now what this is going to do is, this is going to, every time that it iterates through an element of x, so every time it looks at x, it's going to print out the value of total. So you should see the value of total being updated. So so it's saying for each element in x. So first start off by looking at the 0th element, which is 1. So total plus equals 1. So now total will have a value of 1. So we can expect the computer to print out 1. Then when it'll look at the first element of x, which is 3. So total plus equals 3. So 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. So then we'll see that total will have a value of 4. And then when it looks at the second element, which is 5, it will be total plus equals 5. And then it'll add on 5 to 4. So then it'll have a value of 9, and it'll print out 9. And then the last time it goes through the loop, it'll look at the third element, which is 2. So it'll go total plus equals 2. And the value of total at that point is 9. So 9 plus 2 is equal to 11. And it'll print out 11. And that's how it's going to iterate. So let's run the program and see what happens. Let's compile. And let's run. So as you can see, it prints out 1, 4, 9, 11. And what this is doing is basically one by one, it's going through, it's looking at it's accessing every element in the integer array x, and it's basically adding on that element to the total. And similarly, I can do a lot of things with this for each statement. I can check whether I is, let's say, even, and then increase the count of even numbers. Now keep in mind, with this for each loop, I can't change the value of the different elements in x, and in that case you would use the for loop. So in this lecture, we've taken a look at the for each loop, which is immensely useful, and it's also known as the enhanced for statement, and it's something that we can use to access every method of an array. And it's not meant for replacement or removal, but it's something we can use to access every element, and thereby we can analyze the array.